post this, and then anybody who can't make it, then they can have it. I'll send the link out to it, and I'll post. Well, awesome. We're excited this is the first of multiple pre-trip Zoom calls for us to get ready for our end of May trip out here to Utah. We actually were just debriefing. We just did a Zoom call right before this, debriefing with the group that was out here in March. And so we were getting some ideas and with them, some things that went well, didn't go well, those kind of things to try to make this trip even better. But it was really cool to debrief with them and then now to jump on with y'all and talk about the trip that we got planned at the end of May. So we'll talk about just this for today. We'll just kind of introduce ourselves to everybody, talk about the logistics, and then talk about what's going to happen over the next 8 weeks as we get ready for the trip. And then I can answer any questions and anything that, any questions anybody has. So, well, Justin, since your face is prominent on display, why don't you pray for us and we can open the meeting in prayer.
Awesome. Dear God, thank you so much for this amazing time to gather together. Many people I haven't met yet, and many people I've met year before. It's so awesome to be able to come together as Christians and to really dive deep onto solid truth on who you are and what that means and why it is important and why we want to share it with Mormons, why we want to share it with the world. And I pray that you would set us on fire for that and guide us in everything we do. And in your name I pray, amen.
Amen. Well, I know that we got people from UNCW. We've got some people from out here from Utah. I know that y'all have organized a group from UNCG, but also, from the surrounding areas. So why don't we just take, and I know we've got, a good amount of people on here. So, just kind of quickly, but let's just go through and maybe just introduce ourselves. What your, just a few things about yourself. Name, date of birth, turn-ons, turn-offs, your favorite books, favorite conspiracy theories. Maybe just Tom can, just a little bit about Tom and how you know Jaski, just stuff like that. No, just kidding. Just name, where you're from, maybe why you're interested in coming on the trip, and one of the purposes of this over the next the 4 Zoom calls with everybody is just so we get a good chance to know everybody, start recognizing faces, so that when y'all get out here, we'll know each other a little bit better. And then we'll talk about logistics and those kind of things tonight. And I'll go over everything that's going to happen before we get out here at the end of May. So for those that don't know me, my name is Aaron Marshall. I am the Ratio Christi regional director out here in Utah. And we were in Wilmington, North Carolina for 7 years with Ratio Christi there at UNC Wilmington, and then came out here in August of 2019 to Utah to help get Ratio Christi chapter started out here in Utah. The president of Ratio Christi National, Corey Miller, is a former LDS. So he grew up Mormon and got saved when he was in high school. And so he has a heart, obviously, for Utah. And in, I think it was 2017, I'd come out here with him. We were trying to hire some people out here. And I think that was the first time I'd even thought ever about Utah, like probably never even thought about it when I was doing like state capitals in like 4th grade. I don't think I just ever thought about Utah. But, really I remember I came out here twice that year. And the second time I was down in Southern Utah at a men's retreat, and a guy pulled up, and 2 women who were dressed like pioneers got out of the car, and it was a polygamist owned hotel. And that was the first time I really realized kind of the fruit of Joseph Smith and what he had taught all those years. And, mainstream Mormonism would reject polygamy now, but there's a lot of that happening here. And when we're here on the trip, we're hoping that we're going to get a chance to go down to Southern Colorado, and you'll get to see where one of the major polygamist groups were headquartered for 20 years. And so really that was the first time I think that God really started kind of breaking my heart for the area. And then we originally were going to be out here for a year, then a year's turned into 2 years, and now probably at least 3 years. And if God were to bless some of the work that we were going to do out here, that we could probably see ourselves being out here for the long run. And we'll talk more about that throughout the trip. But we're, God has really broken our heart for the Mormon people, and to see a group of people that would profess to know Jesus and yet haven't even ever heard, for the most of them, have never heard the true gospel. You will talk to people when you're out here who profess to be Christians and have never heard the true gospel, and that should break our hearts. And it did, certainly for us. And so we'll talk more, throughout the weeks leading up the trip about just what's going on here in Utah, and why, the trip and the purposes and all that. But yeah, so that's me. And then I'll let Nick introduce himself, and then Jane, and then we'll go down the line. So Nick, scoot closer and tell us all about yourself, Nick.
My name is Nick. I live in Wilmington, but I'm currently in Utah. And I'm looking forward to getting to meet every single one of you. And I know that the Lord's hand is going to be on this trip, and it's going to be very exciting to share the gospel.
And conspiracy theory.
And Nick was learning how to snowboard this week, and so he has lots of good pictures of him sprawled out on the snow, face down, after trying to do some tricks on at the snowboard park. So, all right. This is Jane.
It's a lie.
Hey, I'm Jane. I'm part of Ratio Christi. I am the regional director for California and Nevada, and a chapter director at some schools, but we're still shut down, so that means Zoom. And I came on the trip last year, and I just fell in love with the state and just have become really burdened for the Mormon people. So I'm thinking of moving from the Golden State to the Mormon State.
And she's also become pretty much a member of our family. So she's lived here for the last, 6 months, at least 3 of the last 6 months, I think she's been here more than she's been in California. So we're hoping that she'll move here in July. So, all right, well, I'll just go down the line. Heather, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us all about you. And just remember to unmute yourself when you get to the mic.
Okay. I'm Heather. I am living in Wilmington, and I am just finishing up my time at UNC Wilmington, and I'm a part of the Ratio chapter here. I just really want to go on this trip. I'm really excited. I've kind of had this weird love for Utah most of my life, more for the nature, but I grew up with a lot of family friends who were Mormon, and just I don't know, feel really excited and convicted just to go out there. I think originally, maybe a year or so ago, when I heard that Christians needed to evangelize to Mormons, I thought that was so bizarre. And then after hearing about it, you get burdened about it, and you're like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm excited to meet all you guys and all the Ratio people I know I love a lot, but I'm excited to meet everyone and go on the trip.
Also, tell us your favorite conspiracy theory. That'll be a good icebreaker. Okay,
that's a really hard question, but I would say my favorite conspiracy theory, I wrote a paper on this, but I don't believe in it. It's Elon Musk is are we living in a simulation? And so I wrote a 25-page paper on that for a class. That'd have to be my favorite.
Yeah. Well, all right, so we'll keep on going down the line. The Jaskies, they are living in the simulation.
All right, so I am Tom Jaski, my wife Christy, and we are in Wilmington, and we were the ones that when Aaron left to go to Utah, after the chapter here fell to pieces, we had to pick it up and help put it back together. But yeah, we've been out to Utah a few times. We went out when Aaron and his family moved out there, and back when he tore the gutter off of a church driving a U-Haul. He can tell you about that.
Let's keep it moving, Jaski.
All right. So yeah, so this will be the third mission trip out there to do Mormon evangelism, and then our daughter Lauren is also out there with a ministry that, if you haven't already been introduced to it, you will. Chip Thompson, who actually wrote the Mormon scrapbook that we'll be using as orientation material. So we visited her this past March. So we haven't quite kept up with Jane, but we've been out to Utah 4 times. So, and then my wife
in second place.
And yeah, Tom ran a half marathon in Utah 2 months ago.
Yeah, you're just saying that so you can brag about how you beat me by 13 minutes.
Oh, did I beat you? Oh, I didn't. Oh, sorry, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Christy? Anything? What's your favorite conspiracy theory, Christy?
Right. I don't have one,
Tell them yours.
but I love missions. God commands us to go. And if you were paired with me last year, you saw that I probably struggled with sharing like door to door. So I've practiced a little bit this year, not so much. So I'm gonna go again and try to get better at that. And you were all such a inspiration last year. You challenged me, so I'm gonna go back and give it another try.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Keep
We'll
going
give it an air bed this time.
And you'll have a bed this time, actually, too. So
We're not gonna have an air bed.
Thank me and Jane that you're sleeping on beds this time and not church pews. So
We got real close.
we're upgrading. Good. All right, Justin.
I'm Justin. I'm a co-leader with Carolyn, who's also on the Zoom call. We got 10 students from like the Greensboro, Winston-ish area in North Carolina. I went on the trip last year, and it was definitely one of the all-time favorite, most memorable, most impactful weeks of my life. I heard about the Mormon trip like back in December, and I was like, I don't really know about that. I was like, it's interesting. I don't really know what they believe. I just know they're a little bit weird and out in Utah, and that's about it. And then we started studying for it. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is like world changing and everything. Like you study all the ways they transform, and they go off in crazy ways, and they distort scripture, and then you use that to really dig deep on what you really believe and why you believe in. That was kind of like really impactful and really life changing for me. And I wanted to carry on and have other people go through it.
Yeah, you and Carolyn and that you guys, as soon as you left, you're ready to come back.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we're good. We're excited to have you back. How about Abby?
Hey guys, my name's Abby. While I was at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, I was the president of Ratio Christi for 2 years. I am very excited about going on this missions trip to Utah because I guess as soon as I heard that there was a part in America that was like Christianity, Christendom, it was as if it wasn't America. I'd never heard of anything like that. And it didn't sound like any of the mission trips I was used to, where people would go to, developing countries and kind of go to people who have never heard anything about Jesus and kind of like a clean palate. So kind of speaking to people who have this image of who Jesus and God are, that we believe is a false one. One, kind of bringing light to that area is everything, but also I think it will be its own challenge to me because these are people who I doubt that they question what they believe, like they think what they believe is true, and I'm sure that's going to shake me in a whole new way and challenge me in so many ways, and I'm looking forward to that challenge and to do it with a group of people who are just as interested to bring the truth to a place that's basically forgotten, I think, by most Americans in the West. I think is really exciting, and so I'm excited for that next month.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and you've hit on so many reasons why I think this trip will be different than most mission trips that you've ever been on, and also more challenging than any other mission trip you've been on, and the potential, for both because we're witnessing, but also for ourselves and be challenged on what we believe and why we believe it, and that's why we think it can be really impactful going forward. So we'll talk more about that, but yeah, you hit on all the reasons we want to do it. It's good. All right, how about Joe?
What up? Yeah, I'm Joe. I live in Wilmington. I guess I've just started going to the Ratio chapter in Wilmington, UNCW, for just a few months now. I've been out of college for a little while. And I have a huge heart for missions too. I'm with the same organization that Lauren Jasky's with, the same missions organization, Pioneers. So long-term goal is I will go overseas and live amongst a unreached people group for who knows how long for who knows how long. I'm super excited. I think UTR for people who've never heard, or maybe they have heard but they just haven't listened, in a lot of ways, because I had heard the gospel for a long time, but I never listened to it, and I had never been able to tell someone what the gospel was also. So it's just also very, very important. Yeah, my favorite conspiracy theory is that we haven't been to the moon, actually.
You
And
still believe in the moon? Oh my gosh.
I know, right? No, so the thing, so like the one thing I heard is like, name one technology that hasn't gotten faster, easier, and cheaper to reproduce other than space travel. I can't think of one.
I don't know. All right. Well, if anybody doesn't want to go on the trip now because Joe doesn't believe we went to the moon, just hold on to that. Also, Joe wins the best mustache award. So, Alex, you have to step up your mustache game. All right. So, Alex, you go next.
Yeah, I could beat that mustache by the time this trip starts. Just gonna put that out there. Yeah, so I went on this trip last year. I was the youngest of the guinea pigs, and this trip last year just really grew me in just a whole bunch of ways and challenging why I believe things, what exactly I believe within that. And yeah, a little bit about me. I'm currently in the Dominican Republic on a mission trip, and I'm going to go straight from here to Utah and just skip home altogether. And I haven't had a hot shower since January. So
Cold showers are better.
So, your conspiracy theory is that hot water still exists?
no, my favorite conspiracy theory is that birds aren't real.
We're just finding all kinds of neat stuff about everybody.
Yeah, they were all killed and replaced by bird drones during the Nixon administration.
Yeah. All right. With that, Jacob, how about you?
Yeah, so my name is Jake. I'm a student at the University of Utah studying computer engineering. Got one more year after this one. I've been going to the University of Utah Ratio Christi meetings for a while now. I tagged along on a fairly recently mission trip down at the BYU campus evangelism section, and I really enjoyed that. So I thought I'd come along this time. Excited to meet y'all.
Yeah, it's cool. We've got 2 Utahians. They're going to be on the trip with us. So we're excited to have them on board. All right, how about Ben and Janae?
Yeah, hey guys. I'm Ratio Christi director out here in Nebraska at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I've been on staff for 3 years now with RC, and was on the original trip here a year ago where we all got training for this missions trip, and then Janae and I just got back here a month or so ago from the trip in March. So we're excited to join you guys again. Get to know you, see and watch you grow and grow alongside you. Yeah, my background, I've a lot of apologetics, politics. I was a political science undergrad, so I can nerd out on that stuff on occasion. Really have a heart for the unborn as well. So any talk relating to bioethics, I'm probably going to jump in and enjoy that as well. So really enjoyed our time there in March, and am still having some follow-up conversations with some missionaries. God's really laid in this last year, laid a burden on my heart for the LDS, because as I've been telling a lot of people, it's not that the gospel shines brighter out in Utah, but the contrast is greater. And that's made the gospel so much more beautiful to me, especially over the last year. So yeah, excited to join you. This is my wife, Janae. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Janae. I help out with Ratio Christi here in Nebraska as well. So my first time in Utah was 3 weeks ago now. I think I'm still recovering, trying to catch up on sleep, but it was amazing and I'm so excited to go back. So thanks for putting up with us again, Aaron. Appreciate it.
They loved it so much they faked a weather situation in Nebraska to stay out here for a few extra days after the trip.
Yeah, we called in for 6 feet of snow between here and Nebraska, or between Utah and Nebraska, so we couldn't get back, and had to hang out with some LDS students at BYU again for an afternoon. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it's good. All right, how Olivia?
Hello, I'm Olivia. I got involved. Well, I've been doing apologetics since high school, but came to UNCW last fall, and so I guess almost 2 years now. I've been in Wilmington, gotten to know the Jaskies and the Ratio chapter. But I think the biggest thing that motivates me to minister to the Mormon population is just like how well known they are for their missions and their outreach and just their heart for sharing what they believe to be true. And as Christians, I think that too often we neglect to share the gospel with so much passion. And I think just imagine like how much these people can do for the Lord if they know what the true gospel is. And that should be all of our response to the gospel because we're called to go. And so I'm excited to have the opportunity to touch these hearts and furthermore to see what they can do for the kingdom of God once they're transformed. And as far as conspiracy theories, I don't know. I don't really have one. Sorry to disappoint. I'm a Taylor Swift fan though, so you can hit me up on that anytime.
That Taylor Swift is a real person? That's your conspiracy theory?
No, I'm just a fan. So if all of the dots that you can connect between her songs, if that qualifies as a conspiracy theory, then.
Also, Tom Jaski's favorite musician too. You didn't know, most people don't know that. That's what he was singing during our marathon. All right, how about Isaiah?
Hi, I'm Isaiah. I'm 18. I graduated high school in 2021, and I heard about it through Justin and Carolyn, and I wanted to learn more about like some of the things why we believe what we believe in Christianity. Just like strengthen my faith, and it seemed like a great opportunity to learn and grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. So y'all have been meeting since January, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. How's it been going so far?
So far, so good.
Yeah, good. Any conspiracy theories that you're holding on to, or?
No, sadly.
No. That's good. Well, good. Well, good to meet you, man. This next guy you probably know from TikTok fame, Johnny Morales. Yeah, you, Johnny.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I still don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, I'm Johnny. I am a freshman at UNCW, and I guess long story short, the way I got involved with Ratio Christi, I thought Tom Jaski's daughter was pretty cute, so I started dating her, and then obviously with that, ended up going to Ratio. So I'm very happy that I started dating Anna Claire for that. But yeah, I'm really excited to go to the mission trip. To the mission trip because I feel like I kind of got like a head start with it because of like 2 months ago, I got a phone call it was just a random phone call, and they're like, hey, hello, is this Jonathan? I was like, yeah. And they were like, hey, we're the missionaries. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I remember like a few years ago, I had met some missionaries on campus, and I think they have my number like still like in the database. So they're like, yeah, like we're the missionaries that are in town right now. Would you want to meet up? And so I've been meeting up with them every week. And Addison, his screen is off right now, but we got lunch with him. Yeah. But it's so cool because getting to talk to them right now, it makes me even more excited to go on this trip just because I get to have a little bit of conversations and get to understand a little bit more about, what they believe. And I think like, as we get to see these talks, like I can only assume what they believe, but it's different to give them an opportunity to share. And by doing that, you get to listen and ask questions and then eventually, share about what you believe. But yeah, I'm really excited to go for that. And I think what's most important about mission trips is that it doesn't start the day we fly into Utah. It starts today. And it technically started yesterday when we get to go and share the gospel with people in our neighborhoods. And, these missionaries that do come into our cities or even your family, whoever it is, you can start your mission now. So yeah, I'm very excited to get to learn a little bit more with all of you guys. And yeah. Oh, and then favorite conspiracy. It's kind of sad, but there's this conspiracy called like Pizzagate. If it's real, it's really sad. But basically it's like this conspiracy where like there's this pizza shop somewhere and like really bad things happen. But there Justin Bieber wrote this song called Yummy. And like if you like look into the lyrics, supposedly it has to do with like Pizzagate. It's kind of complicated, but if you want to look into
Good
it. Just
conspiracy theory always involves pizza and Justin Bieber. Remember that, everybody. Yeah, that's good. Also, AC, when she was out here in February, was recognized in the tiny town of Ephraim, Utah, because of her TikTok fame. So you guys might become celebrities. We're going to sign, you have to sign releases whenever y'all come out here to be on Johnny's TikTok channel. So everyone be ready for that. All right, let's see. Cole Morganti, you're up.
All right. Hey, everybody, I'm Cole. I'm from Wilmington. I go to North Carolina State University. Jane's laughing for some reason, but I was the student president of the Ratio chapter at NC State. And with NC State going online for COVID last year, I had the opportunity to move out here to Utah and be Aaron's intern for the year. So now I'm currently in Utah, and that's what I do. And I just want to say that I'm super excited to see all these people on the screen, just knowing how many people are coming on the trip. It just makes me so happy to see people that care about the Mormon people, because I know that I did not care. I didn't even know they existed until I had to start studying to come out here. And then I just thought that they were like a denomination that believed like baptism was required, and that was the only difference. But then just to see how different everything is. And then going back home, I went back home in Wilmington a few weeks ago, and just seeing that all my friends that don't care about the LDS people now, and that's like my only character trait is that I care about them now. And so I'm just so excited that you guys are coming out here and helping us just with what we're doing and so on. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's been cool to watch Cole grow this year as he's been out here, and just the way in which his heart has been broken for the LDS people. And he's gotten so bold that he even has a josephlied.com bumper sticker on his car right now. And so far, nothing bad has happened, right, Cole?
No, and I also forgot my conspiracy theory.
Oh yeah, what's your conspiracy theory?
My conspiracy theory.
No, sorry.
No, that's not a conspiracy. So my favorite conspiracy theory would probably be like a theological one, thanks to Kimza Kirkman in Wilmington, where the Nephilim from Genesis 6 are these giants, sons of God, and I still think they're here today, and that actually Bigfoot is one of them. So yeah.
That's not a conspiracy theory, that's just facts.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. All right, Hawken.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Hey everyone, I'm Hawken. I'm located in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm 24 years old, 2 years out of college. Started getting involved with Ratio last fall. I heard Aaron speak at the Apologetics Conference like 2 weeks ago, and then at Ratio. My heart just hurt for Mormons. I really didn't know much about them, and just the false gospel, just the legalism, and it just broke my heart, and can't wait to go there and share the gospel with them. So conspiracy theory, I think flat earth is pretty funny. I think that's my favorite. I don't believe it, but it's pretty funny.
Which one do you believe? Do you have any conspiracy theories you believe?
No. I don't think.
The round earth conspiracy theory?
Yeah, I guess I believe that one.
Good. Well, good, man. Well, thanks. We're excited to have you on the trip. How about Caitlin, another Utahian?
Hi, yeah, my name's Caitlin. I'm another student at University of Utah. I'm originally from Washington, but I came down here to go to school. Started going to Ratio Christi back in the fall. That's where I met Aaron. And then we went, sorry, I have a cold. So Jake and I went down in March to kind of tag along with the evangelism that was going on down there. And it was just really great experience, honestly. It was like so much better than like what I was expecting. I was like really nervous about it because I'd never really talked to people just like on the street. But I will say that like, honestly, the Mormon population is probably like the most friendly and like easy to get to talk to about like spiritual things. So they're like all so willing to talk about it. And it was just like really, really good. And we had some really great conversations. And I'm still in contact with one of the people that we talked to. So just that experience, like just kind of encouraged me to want to go and do it for a full week and just learn and grow and yeah, and meet cool people. So
Yeah, awesome. We're excited to have you on the trip. How about Carolyn?
Hey, I'm Carolyn. As Justin said earlier, he and I are kind of leading the group, kind of central North Carolina-ish area. And yeah, we went last year. I was kind of involved on the fringe of people that I'd known who had exited cults. And it was in a small scale situation, but very awful and heartbreaking, and it destroyed lots of lives, and it's still ongoing. And in the middle of that, I had kind of heard about trips out to Utah in general, and it was about the third time I heard about it. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. So it took a few nudges to head out there. I was also part of the Ratio Christi chapter at UNC Greensboro as well. So that's where I think Ross kind of handed the Utah thing to me, and then we kind of worked together on getting it up and running. And now I've graduated, but we're doing it again. So that's been really cool. Conspiracy theories tend to stress me out, but I guess if there was one, is that Epstein didn't kill himself.
That's just facts. What about Addison? Are you here? I see that. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I am. Hi. Do you want me to start?
Just start from the beginning.
All right. Well, my name's Addison. I started coming to Ratio because Zach Rivenbark invited me, and I met him recently, and I was like, yeah, I'll start going to Ratio. That sounds cool, because I heard Johnny went there, and Claire, and like some other people that I knew. And so I started going, and then somebody was like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to Utah to minister to Mormons. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't know much about like Mormonism in general. And like in my mind, I didn't really even realize like how different their beliefs were from Christianity. But then when like I think Cole, was one of the first people to like tell me some of like crazy like things that they believe, they like are honestly kind of like, you know, like against like biblical teaching and like against like what we believe so strongly to where it's really not even close. And like anyway, when I heard those things, I was just like, dang, like they should learn the truth. Like I feel like that's important for like people to tell them what we believe, and like and why what they believe like is like not very solid. And when I like kept learning more and more, it just made me want to go more and more. And that's where I am now. I really want to go, and I'm excited. And I'm excited to keep learning. And yeah. So anything else? The conspiracy theory, was there another question?
Just what's your most hilarious story about Tom Jaski?
Oh, when I met him, he yeah, he's a goofball. So ever since then.
It's good, it's true.
And then conspiracy theory, well, it's funny, Epstein is actually a really good one, because he definitely didn't kill himself. I really don't have any in particular, because I think all conspiracies are true. They all have like a hint of like truth to them, which I think is why they're believable. I think you can get like an idea and then like kind of like twist it a little bit, and then add a tinge of like, if this was like this, then all these other things would be like this. And then I feel like when you get like a tinge of truth and then warp it like that, it just is so believable. Like the flat earth, like the premises that they present, if you like go on their website and stuff, you can kind of be like, oh wait, that kind of makes sense. Or like, oh yeah, I don't trust the government. Like I see why they would lie to us about those kind of things. I feel like that's where conspiracies are born. And I feel like I don't trust the government. And so like, that's why they're all kind of believable. But at the same time, I know like absolute truths, and I'm like rooted in certain things. So obviously I don't think that the earth is flat, but I just think all conspiracy theories have a little bit of relevancy.
talk to Cole Morganti out here. He's starting to believe in flat Earth, so you guys can all hear his theories on that.
Oh, I hope I didn't offend him. But the Earth is definitely not flat.
You can't offend him. It's fine. Yeah, it's definitely a triangle. Everybody. All right, Tommy.
Oh.
Yeah, Tommy. Are you? There you go.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, my name is Tommy. I'm also in Wilmington. I'm a freshman at UNCW, and everyone's basically said everything. But yeah, I'm excited to learn more about Mormonism because I definitely don't know a lot about it currently. But yeah, so I'm just excited to grow myself as well as the challenge. So I don't really have any conspiracy theories except for there's a rapper that died and I think he's still alive. His name is Juice WRLD.
So, Tupac or Biggie? You think they're still alive?
I mean, I don't know about those two actually, but.
Okay. All right. Well, good guys. Well, that's awesome. So we there's some more people that aren't on this aren't on the Zoom call that are coming on the trip. So we're excited to get to know each other better. Excited to see what what God's going to do through this. I wanted to just share. Let me just share this briefly. Let's see if I can. I'm going to try to share my screen. See if you guys can see this. Can you see that? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Why? I mean, there's multiple reasons why coming on this trip will why it's important. But coming on this trip will help. Will force you, and I think some of you talked about this. Will force you to probably realize that you're more Mormon in the way you think about your faith than you realize. And what I mean by that is that for most of us, if you haven't studied, now some of you have studied this for a lot, but you probably are more Mormon in the way you think about why you're a Christian. And I'm a Christian because I had a personal experience, a subjective personal experience. And, no offense, but usually it was at cry night at summer camp. If you grew up in a Christian, and, everyone got together and everyone was doing it. So everyone professed Jesus. And then you get back and 2 weeks later, you forgot everything that you said you believed when you were at summer camp. But it was a subjective personal experience. But when I'm talking to somebody else, why should Bob become Christian? Well, it has nothing to do with my subjective personal experience, right? I mean, there has to be something besides that as to why I'm a Christian. And most people don't know the evidence for Christianity. And so, in fact, many of you would think that certainly moral truths are relative, that truths about religion, truths about morality are relative. In other words, you can't tell somebody else that they're wrong. So the idea that we would come out here to Utah to tell, not that we're coming out here just to tell people that they're wrong, we're not doing that, but the fact that we could tell somebody that they're wrong in their religious claims, most people would say, no, that's, you can't do that. That's absurd, right? And then honestly, many of us are more Mormon in the way we think about God. And so for many of you, challenging the way you view God and the way you view the gospel will be maybe the most important part of this trip, because so many of us have a performance view of God. We think that we don't understand the difference between justification and sanctification. We don't understand the way in which we're made right with God by the one-time sacrificial act of Jesus on the cross and then his death and his resurrection, and that the sanctification is a separate event. And so we'll talk about that stuff when you're out here. In fact, the last trip, I think there were 2 students that they would say that was the most impactful part of the trip, was just realizing how much their view of God was Mormon. And you'll be pressed with a works-based religion, as you'll just see, you can't hide it. I mean, here it's just it's all there. And so you'll see the implications of that. And then also just the way that we just don't evangelize. I mean, we say that Christianity is true. We say it's the most important thing about us. We say it's the most important thing about our world, and yet we don't tell people, because why? They might ask us questions we don't know the answer to. So what will happen here? Many of you mentioned the Mormon people are going to are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. And getting into conversations with them is so easy. Number one, most of the people you'll talk to have been on Mormon missions. So going up and talking to them, we'll go door knocking in Provo, that they'll be excited you're doing this. I mean, I had somebody last time, we went door knocking and I asked him, we were talking about, hey, we're evangelicals, we're here to share our faith. And he said, I can't right now, I'm in the middle of a math test, but can you come back in an hour and a half? I mean, he was so excited to want to talk about these things that he was apologizing to me that he was taking a math test. So it's such a safe place to learn how to get up to bat in these spiritual conversations. And the goal would be that you're learning to do that here with the Mormons, but that the long term is that you're learning how to normalize having spiritual conversations in your entire life. And so, we'll talk more about that throughout, the leading up to the trip. But I just wanted to bring that up with you as to, the benefits of coming out here. But think about this. I mean, here's the things that we're going to be talking about on this trip with Mormons and then with ourselves. And then you add some other issues as well. What does it mean to be Christian? I mean, have you ever thought about what does it mean when I say that I'm a Christian? What are the truths and the core values that I have to hold on to in order to be Christian? What are the truths that if I deny, remove me from the Orthodox Christian faith? What is truth? How do I even know what's true in religious claims? Talking about God's nature, right? A.W. Tozer said, what you think about when you think about God is the most important thing about you. And many of us have a view of God that's very Mormon-esque. We think of God as the old man up in the sky, right? An embodied God. So God's nature, Jesus's nature, right? Do you understand the God man, that is fully God and fully man, and the implications of that? Because you're going to be challenged with a different view of God out here, a different view of Jesus out here. Do you know why we can trust the Bible? I mean, they believe the Bible, the Mormons believe the Bible is true as far as was translated correctly. They don't believe that it was. And so there's parts of it, they don't know what, but they say that parts of it aren't true. So can you defend why you believe the Bible, right? If you're a Christian, why these 66 books? And then hermeneutics, which is the science of studying the scripture, because you're going to see all kinds of verses that are taken out of context. And evangelicals do this all the time, where we just take verses out of context. Jeremiah 29:11 being the one that I talk about the most, just to try to ruin people's day, not to ruin your day, but because most people that's their life verse, and that's not your verse. And so we'll talk about hermeneutics and how we can't just pull verses out of context. We'll talk about apologetics and why it's important to know not just what you believe, but why you believe it. And then how that transforms our evangelism. We're not just trying to download information to people. We're seeing them as human beings. We're loving them well. We're seeing them as prisoners of war more than we are as enemies. Think about philosophy and church history and spiritual warfare. You will, Alex can tell you, we believe we actually had a demonic encounter last year when we were evangelizing, when we were going door to door, and we can tell you more about that. But I've multiple encounters out here where I'm certain that there were spiritual warfare that was going on, and I'm so much more aware of it out here now, having been out here for a year and a half. And then maybe most importantly, but certainly included in all that, just the gospel, being able to articulate the gospel, the true gospel, and then to be able to rest in that. I mean, we're going to go through the book of Galatians when you're here, and we see that in Galatians where Paul says that it's for freedom that Christ has set us free. Are you walking in that freedom? Not freedom to just do whatever I want to do, but freedom to be who you were created to be. Are you walking in that freedom? Are you still kind of on the treadmill trying to prove yourself to God, to other people, and maybe even most importantly to yourself? And we'll show you that's not the gospel, but you'll see the works-based approach here in Utah, and you'll see why that is so devastating to our faith. And so you'll see all these things by being out here in Utah. And so you'll be forced to think better about what does it mean to be a Christian, about what do I believe and why I believe it. And so all of those things, in addition to getting a chance to share the gospel with somebody who, like I said earlier, these are people who will profess to know Jesus and yet have never heard the true gospel. You're going to meet people who've been on missions where they've gone around the world to share the gospel and they've never heard the true gospel. And you get a chance to share the true gospel with somebody, and that should, break our hearts, and it should be, excite us at the same time. So we'll talk more even next, the next session about some of these things. But I just wanted to kind of help you understand, I think, why this trip is important, and then how this can be impactful for you if you'll kind of trust the process and let and study all the material we have you study. It's going to be, there's a good bit of studying, but just to trust that all the way through, and then when you're here, you'll really see some fruit from that. So, all right, so what I wanted to do just for the next, 15, 20 minutes is just kind of walk you through what this is going to look like over the next 7 weeks. Okay. And I'll show you I'll walk you through the schedule here in a second, but I just wanted to show you the resources that we're going to be using on this trip. Okay. So we are developing resources now for our own videos, our own curriculum, but that's not done yet. So what we're doing this trip, just like we did the one that just in March, is we are using material from a group called Maven. Maven has done multiple of these trips. In fact, this was the trip that we went on last year with some of us, where we learned, how they did it, and then we kind of took the parts we liked from them, and then now we're kind of making it our own. So we're gonna use 2 books for the trip that we're gonna have you read. This is before you get here. So the idea is that you've read this stuff before you get here. This is the first one. It's called The Ambassador's Guide to Mormonism. It's written by a guy named Brett Kunkel. Now, I have a PDF version of this that I've emailed to, I think, everybody. If you didn't get it, let me know and I can email it. If you just want the actual copy, some people like the physical copy, I know I do, then you can just go on Amazon and order this. It's called The Ambassador's Guide to Mormonism. I will send everybody the syllabus, and it has this book on there. But if you want to go on Amazon or something and order this, you can. But like I said, I will email you a PDF version of this. And I've emailed some of you already, but if you haven't got it, then I will email it to you already. Now, this is the book that Tom Jaski was talking about. This is the Mormon Scrapbook, or what's Witness to Mormons in Love. The Mormon Scrapbook revised edition. It's important that you get the revised edition. Now, some of us have talked through, and in the future, we're probably not going to use this resource. I like it. I think there's some better resources. So as you go through, the thing about this book that's the best is in the back, there's a glossary that will help you deal with the fact that with almost every word, when you're talking to Mormons, almost every word that is of any kind of meaning, they use the same word. So we say here that they'll use the same lexicon, but a very different dictionary. So you have to understand when you talk to Mormons, use the word salvation, there means something very different than what you mean by salvation. God, Jesus, atonement. I mean, all these things, they mean something very different. And so in the back of this book is a glossary that can be very helpful for you to understand those kind of things. And then you will be able to read through all of this. So over the course of the next 8 weeks, you will read through this book and you will read through this book. Okay, you'll have to order this online. Again, this is Witnessing to Mormons in Love, the Mormon Scrapbook Revised Edition by Chip Thompson. Again, I'll send you the syllabus so you'll have this. So you don't have to remember it, but you'll need to order this one online. If you want a hard copy, you'll order this online. Otherwise, I will send you the PDF version and you can just check it out online. Now, Maven has produced 6 videos and then this book called The Final Word. These books have been mailed I've mailed copies to Tom Jaski for you at UNCW, and I've mailed copies to Carolyn for those of you with the UNCG group, okay? And they will distribute them to you. I think they were about 4 or 5 short, so that when they finish producing the next batch, then we'll send out to those that didn't get them. But I will email you a PDF version of this so that you can have it as you get started on the PDF version, but then this will be the book that you'll actually have with you throughout the trip. So you'll go through each of those lessons, those video lessons that Brett Kunkel has made. They're about 20 or 30 minutes each. And then there's a corresponding chapter in this that you will go through, you'll fill it out. And this is part of your pre-trip work along with the Ambassador's Guide and the Mormon Scrapbook. You'll do all of that and we've got it laid out. I'll show you here in a second. But then when you come on the trip, you'll also bring this book. And this is also going to operate, you'll see when you get it, as your daily journal as you go through the trip. So you're going to journal through the trip. Every day you're here, we're going to have some time together where you're going to journal. We'll debrief together. We'll talk about it. It'll be the way in which you can help process what's happening during the trip. Because they're going to have, the main thing we got from the debrief from the other group was it's a lot. And it is, it's a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff. And if you think you're just going to remember everything that happened afterwards, you're kidding yourself. So this will help you process through everything as you go through it day by day. And I'll talk to you more about the journal part of it as we get closer to the trip. But just understand that this will be, you'll use this book for your pre-trip and then also during the trip as your journal. Okay, so any questions? Again, if you got any questions, unmute yourself and you can ask any questions you have about any of that. And then I'll pull up the syllabus and we can walk through what's going to happen before the trip. But I know it's a lot of information, but any questions about any of the resources or anything like that before I move on to the syllabus? All right, I mean, we're good. Again, you can always email me if there's too much information here. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. And now what I'm going to show you is the actual syllabus. All right, so can we see this? You see this, everybody? Yes? Okay, good. All right. So here's our trip, right? May 29th to June 5th. You'll see here are our leaders. I need to add Cole on there as well. But these are the Ratio chapter directors that are, they're leading it. The Bible, the Mormons will use the Bible, but they only use the King James version of the Bible. So if you're interested, one of the things we're going to have you do is meet with the Mormon missionary. They will give you a free Book of Mormon. But if you want, you could get one of these. Now this is thick and too big, but this is the quad. Okay, so the quad is the Bible. Yeah, and then Justin just showed you his triple. Is that a triple, Justin? Yeah, so Justin has the triple, which just doesn't include the Bible because that's of all their sacred texts, the Bible is the least sacred. So the triple will just have the Book of Mormon, the Doctrines and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. The quad will add the Bible to that. And then there's some other stuff that we can talk about probably next time, in regards to that. But they use the King James version. So if you're talking to somebody, it's better to use the King James because they're just going to assume that they assume that the translations are bad. So I always like to use the quad just because I can use my King James, and then the language is obviously a little bit more stilted, but it's less of a problem for them than if you're using a ESV or something like that. Now you can use that, and I think many of the people on the trip did. It's just that they already have a certain view of the Bible that there's been problems with it, and so I just think it's easier just to use the King James version. But we can talk about that more as we get close. And then when you're here, you can buy one of those if you want. So the second day you're here, we'll go to Deseret Bookstore and you can get a quad or a triple if you want. But we're going to have you meet with the Mormon missionary, and they will offer you just a Book of Mormon if you want that. That's what they will always offer when they come on, when they do their missionary visits. And then you'll see there that the required books are those three, the ones I mentioned: the Ambassador's Guide to Mormonism, Witness to Mormons in Love, the Mormon Scrapbook, and then the Final Word. And remember, the Final Word is being sent to you. The Ambassador's Guide to Mormonism, I have a PDF version that I email you. If you want to buy another one, you can, a hard copy. But the Witness to Mormons in Love, that's the book that you're going to have to buy. Now we recommend, here's some other books that I recommend, again, depending on how deep down the rabbit trail you want to go. If you've never studied apologetics, now I know some of you have been involved with Ratio Christi, both at UNCW and UNCG, and I know Jacob and Caitlin, here at Utah, but we always recommend, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, because you're going to be, one of the things that we'll talk about is 2/3 of Mormons now, when they leave the church, 2/3 of those that leave the church are going towards either atheism, agnosticism, or spiritual but not religious. They're not going to Christianity. And so if you prove to somebody that Mormonism is false and they become atheist agnostic, the evil one is happy either way, right? I mean, our goal is not just to disabuse people of Mormonism. Our goal is to introduce them to the true gospel. And apologetics, we believe, is a tool, a useful tool to help us give reasons why we believe that we can trust the Bible, that God exists, and these other things. And so we'll talk about this more, but a lot of times in our evangelism, we're going to be just giving them reasons to believe in the resurrection, to believe that God exists, to believe that we can trust the Bible, even if they aren't having doubts, because we're assuming that at some point they're going to have doubts. And when they do, when their shelf breaks, is the Mormon parlance, when that happens, we want them to not reject the true Jesus, because they realize that Mormonism has lied to them their whole life. So I would recommend you get that book. And then the book Tactics, whenever all of our evangelistic encounters are essentially grounded in the work of Tactics, the book of Tactics by Greg Koukl. We taught on it every year at UNCW. We teach on it here in Utah, because we just think that book is so helpful in how to have conversations. Next Zoom session, we'll even walk through a little bit of that and how it's applicable to us here. But I recommend everybody get that book. He just came out with a 10th edition, 10th anniversary edition, second edition in the fall. I recommend that you get it. I just think it's an incredible resource. And then there's a couple other books that you might be interested in. Mormonism 101 by a guy named Bill McKeever. You'll meet him when you're out here. Bill's probably forgotten more about Mormonism. He's a Christian than any of us will ever know. He's just brilliant, brilliant guy. Hopefully last time he has some replica gold plates that he uses in evangelistic encounters, so he'll bring those. And then this book is Corey Miller, who is the president of Ratio Christi, just came out with this in the fall. It's called Engaging with Mormons. It's a short read, but that might be something you might be interested in as well. So again, those are not required, but those would certainly be recommended for you to study through. All right, so before the trip, you'll see here, you've got essentially 7 weeks. We've got 7 weeks until the trip. All right, 7 weeks essentially until May 29th, when y'all will come out here. So you'll be out here Saturday, May 29th through Saturday, June 5th. And what we're going to do is we're going to pack a lot of teaching and thinking through during those 7 weeks. Okay. So what you'll see here, and I'll email this to everybody as soon as this Zoom session is over. What you'll see is that on one side of each week, you've got assignments and then you've got reading. Okay. So let me just walk you through this real quick, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions. Okay. So you see the week of April 11th through the 17th, you're going to do the large group Zoom session, which is this. Then there will be 3 other large group Zoom sessions that we are going to do as a group. Okay. So the next one is April 25th. So that's in 2 weeks and 2 Sundays. Then May 9th, 2 Sundays from then, and then May 23rd, which is 2 Sundays from them. So every other Sunday until you come here, we're going to have a large Zoom meeting in which we're going to get together. Next time, we'll talk a little bit more about, we'll just kind of dive a little bit deeper into Mormonism, the gospel, a little bit more into tactics. The third session, we're going to have some evangelists from out here in Utah basically do a Q&A with y'all on just answering your questions about how do I approach this topic, those kind of things. We think that'll be really helpful. And then the last Zoom session, the Sunday before you come out here, will just be purely logistics, as y'all will be getting ready to come out here the next week. Then we're going to ask you all to, if you can, to meet in small groups every week. Now, I know Carolyn and Justin, your group's going to be a little bit different, but for those that are at UNCW and for us out here in Utah, we're going to try to, and then Ben, I know you've got one student in Nebraska, we're going to try to meet at least every other week, but hopefully weekly, to go through the material that we're reading and studying and watching together as a small group, okay? So you can kind of decide when those are going to be, but the idea is that you're meeting at least every other week, but hopefully weekly, just to kind of process all this information together, to go through the readings together, to go through the videos. What do you have questions about? All that kind of stuff. And so you'll see that those are under the assignments. The only other thing under the assignments that you'll see is under week 2, April 18th through 24th, it says converse with LDS missionaries number 1. And then you'll see down there at the bottom, week 7, converse with LDS missionaries number 2. Now, you don't have to break it up just like that. We just kind of put one at the front and one at the back. But what we're asking you to do is you go to this website right here, www.comeuntoChrist.org /Light the World 2020, Book of Mormon request. and you will fill out some information and you can schedule a Zoom call with a Mormon missionary, which might be in your local area, it might be somewhere else. And we're asking every one of you to schedule a Zoom call with a Mormon missionary before you start studying. Now, I know some of you have already started studying, that's fine, go for it. We still want you to do it. But if you can, schedule a call with a missionary this week, or next before you start studying, because the idea is you want to just see kind of how does this conversation going to go without any additional knowledge about Mormonism and without studying this information. And then ideally what you're going to do is before you come out here, so maybe the last week, maybe second to last week before you come out here, you're going to schedule a Zoom call again with a missionary. And hopefully you're going to see that your conversations are going to improve. We'll talk about the next Zoom session that we have on April 25th. We'll discuss your first missionary call. So we'll kind of debrief, how did it go? You can obviously discuss it with your small group as well. But the goal would be that you're improving in your 2 missionary calls, and then obviously you're going to be improving when you're out here during the week. Okay, so does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that? So you're going to have 4 Zoom calls with the whole group. You're going to be getting together with your small group at least 4 times, hopefully 7, once a week. And you're going to meet with a missionary, a Mormon missionary twice via Zoom. Now, if you can meet in person, even better, that's fine. But this is just, if you go to this website here, you can schedule a meeting with a Mormon missionary via Zoom, and you can actually have a discussion with them. And they'll give you a Book of Mormon if you want that, okay? All right, so then on the second half of this, over on the other side of the reading, you'll see, I just put in here for week 1, this is, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, or as we call it, Edhefa. If you're gonna read, I don't have faith to be an atheist, or tactics, you can read that obviously throughout the next 7 weeks. It's better if you do, but if you can't, obviously we understand, but if you can, it would be better for you. You'll do better out here if you've read those 2 books. So I just put those in there. But what you'll see is, you'll see Brett Kunkel's book, you'll see The Final Word, and then you'll see Thompson, okay? So Kunkel is the Ambassador's Guide, okay? So the first week that you'll see there on April 18th to the 24th, you're gonna have read through this entire pamphlet. I mean, it's a short pamphlet, it's easy read. You'll have read through this entire book, okay? You'll have read through chapters 14, and chapters 13 of the Mormon Scrapbook. We broke it up because we were trying to make all of the content kind of go together. So the book doesn't exactly go with, it doesn't flow in the same way. So we broke the chapters up so that this and the videos kind of go together as best they can, okay? So the first, so that week of April 18th to the 24th, you'll have read through this, you'll have read through chapters 1, 14, and 13 in this, and then you'll have done session 1 in The Final Word. Now, again, I will email you a PDF copy if you don't have it. Others of you will get your hard copy of this, but you'll see when you open it up, you'll see here session 1, Are Mormons Christians? You'll watch the video that goes along with it. And as you watch the video, you'll see there's places here you can just actually answer questions. So it's kind of fill in the blank. So it just kind of keeps your attention as you watch through it, and you'll fill in the blank on this as you watch through that video. And there's 6 videos total, and you'll see there, so it goes all the way through session 6, and you'll do that for each session with the goal being that you finish that final 6th session before you come out here. You finish The Final Word, you finish the Mormon Scrapbook before you come out here, and then you finish the Ambassador's Guide before you come out here. All right, so I know that's way too much information. Questions, comments, and I'll email you all this so you'll have it, but any questions or comments about that? I mean, is that clear? Does it make sense? Is it, none of that makes sense?
Aaron, can I jump in real quick and just encourage them? That is a lot of reading, and I know some of you probably feel like you're barely staying afloat with your classes right now. So don't get overwhelmed, and definitely do not decide not to go on the trip because you can't do all the reading. Our daughter went last year with us, and she did probably half or less than half of the reading, and it was still an incredibly valuable trip for her. So it's not a pass to say just kind of throwing the towel on the reading, but do your best. But just do what you can do, and then you'll add value will be added through the Zoom conferences, and then just do your best and come on out on the trip.
Yeah, totally. So this is the ideal. Again, the better your conversations will go better when you're out here, the more prep work you've done. The reality though is when you're out here, you still will feel like you're being, you're drinking from a fire hose anyway. So you'll do all kinds of prep work and then you'll still kind of feel overwhelmed anyway. But the more prep work you do, the better prepared you'll be to have those conversations. So this is an ideal, but like Tom said, don't think that's too much, I'm out, right? If you've got exams, get your exams done, and then you've got some time in May that you can catch up. But as you're meeting together with your small group, hopefully you can get some questions answered and get encouraged in that while you're reading through, or even just a chance to ask whatever questions you have. But yeah, don't let that, don't just see that and be like, oh, this is too much. Again, this is different than any other mission trip probably that you've ever been on, okay? This is gonna be much more theological. It's going to feel academic, but you're going to see the practical outworkings of it. I promise you when you're out here. So it feels like it's more academic, and in some sense it certainly is, but the logical outworkings of that are going to, when you walk out, when you leave this trip on June 5th, you're going to know much better what you believe and why you believe it than you did before you started this trip. And you're going to be much better prepared to talk to anyone at any time about the true gospel. And that's the goal of the trip. So so 100% what Tom says. Don't use as an excuse not to just do the work, but at the same time, do what you can do, and then we'll work with with whatever that is. So yeah, good point. Any other questions, comments, disagreements? Does it feel overwhelming? I know it's hard. No one wants to be the one that chimes in on the Zoom call, but so Tom and I know Carolyn and Justin are kind of doing something different. So you guys, yours is going to look even different than this, but Tom will get together with the UNCW students about a time when y'all can meet, weekly or every other week to go over some of this stuff. Okay. So he'll work with you on that. Jacob and Caitlin, I'll work with y'all out here, and then Ben, you can work with Holly on that. And then if anybody has any questions, obviously we can talk about those on our big Zoom sessions. Okay, all right. Yes, Christy.
Yeah. So when we call our missionary, could we team up with that, or do you want us to try it on our own?
It's better. So when we go out, when we're here, we'll always go out in twos. It will be better experience for you if you do it by yourself, because it will be easy to hide. It'd be easy to hide behind somebody if I'm teamed at the beginning. So again, it's not a, with all these things, I think we're trusting God through all this. So it's not like I'm somehow going to ruin, if God's like, I really wish Christy wouldn't have called that missionary, because now that person will never get saved, because they said things that aren't true. No, I don't believe that's the way God works. And so we show up, we do the best we can in whatever the conversation is. But part of it is to try to realize you don't realize how much you don't know until you get in that conversation, until you've tried to help somebody realize that Jesus is God. Where in scripture do you go to do that? Until you've tried to help someone understand that God has always been God. Where do you go in scripture to help people understand that? You're like, I've never really thought about that. Just everyone I know in Wilmington just believes that. I've never had to have that discussion. So what will happen invariably is every night you get back on the trip, all of you are going to be in your Bibles, in the different Doctrines and Covenants, the Book of Mormon, marking it up and wrestling with it, because you've been challenged that day with things that you didn't know how to properly defend. And then the next day you'll be better equipped in that area, then you'll get challenged in some new area. So it's better to have the experience of just being destroyed theologically and apologetically from somebody, and then to realize, okay, here are the areas that I need to understand. So if you're, it's better if you would do it by yourself, but if you just don't want to do it by yourself, then yeah, then team up. When we go out, like we said, when we're here, you will always go in twos, or maybe even threes sometimes, but you'll go in twos when we go door knocking, you go in twos when we go at BYU, and when we go in Temple Square. But yeah, so and also don't think of this as when you meet with the Mormon missionary that it has to be like your job is not just try to rip them one theologically, right? I mean, these are human beings, right? We want to have conversations with people. We want to try to love on them, but you're asking questions, right? And how'd you come to that conclusion? And we'll talk about that with tactics, but just it's good to have that first experience. So sometimes the last time people came back and they're like, yeah, that did not go well. Or one guy started yelling, not yelling, but arguing with the missionary. And then he realized that didn't really go that well. And so it's important, I think, to have that experience, then to get some training, have another chance at it before you come out here, and then to have lots of time, lots of opportunities when you're out here in person to have those experiences of being able to try to articulate what you believe and why you believe it to somebody that professes to believe the same things you do, but we know that they don't. And that's a really hard thing. So so this is something that we've added from last year, and it went well with the other students. In fact, many of the students are still meeting with their missionaries that they started meeting with before the trip. So just like everything, remember, you're building relationships just as much as you're trying to challenge them. And so hopefully this is ongoing conversations, not just this one and done theological jujitsu you're trying to pull on somebody.
Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
When you might have already answered this, but so are our small groups assigned to us by like our region? So like our Wilmington people in a small group?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. And like, will those just meet on Zoom, or just kind of depends on what the small group wants to do, or?
Well, yeah, Tom, he goes to bed at 8, so you'll probably have to figure that, out with him. But yeah, so Tom will set that up with you. I mean, ideally, it's better if you can meet in person, just because you have more chance to talk. But I mean, it just depends. So like out here, with Caitlin and Jake, we're going to meet in person and just talk through things. And then, so I know that the UNCG group is meeting by Zoom. So I think the groups last time, I mean, so, whatever you can do, it's, I think it's probably better in person, but at the same time, if y'all just can't, and again, like Tom said, if you have to miss one of those, don't think, okay, I'm abandoning the whole trip, right? I mean, do what you can do on the pre-trip stuff. As much as you can do before the trip will better prepare you for the trip. But at the same time, we want you out here more than we want you to have finished 100% of the material. Don't think that that's some kind of, if I haven't finished 100% of the material, I can't come on the trip. Because the experience of being out here is just as integral, more integral than the pre-trip stuff. But again, I want to have some knowledge before I have discussions so I can be better prepared for those discussions. But getting out here and having the discussions is kind of, the key piece. So yeah, good question. Other questions? Anybody else? Just feel free just to jump right in. I don't know, does it feel like too much? I think, did Lauren Jaskey, did she join? Lauren, are you, Lauren, you want to unmute yourself? And we did some introductions at the beginning, and I saw you join. I don't know if you're live, but if you wanted to unmute yourself and just introduce yourself, you can, or we can just stare at your mic awkwardly until we see the unmute happen.
Hi. Also, I was totally sniffling earlier and didn't realize that I wasn't muted, so sorry about that. What do you want for an introduction?
Just who you are, and tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing now, because on Wednesday of the trip, we're going to be heading down to Ephraim to check out the coffee shop, and so we'll get to see where you are right now.
Cool. My name's Lauren. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. I graduated from UNCW in December. And I've been in Utah for 2 months, almost 3 months now. I am working in a coffee shop. I'm living above it. It's where I am now, and it's with a ministry called Try Grace that was started, I think, I guess much longer than that. The cafe's been here for over 10 years, but for how many?
I think he moved there in like 91 or 92 was when Chip moved there, right?
Yeah, they've been here. The cafe hasn't been there as long, but it's been here for a really long time. But yeah, so anyways, I'm getting a lot of training in how to reach Mormons, and we have a mix of people that come into the cafe, college students. Like Aaron said, a lot of people who leave Mormonism are agnostic or atheists or kind of just in no man's land. So there's a lot of students that come in that you can tell they're not Mormon anymore, but were raised Mormon. So yeah, just like learning and studying how to reach them, and yeah, that's what I'm doing.
What's been either something that like the most impactful thing, or something that you just never thought about that, being out here for 3 months with in regards to Mormons and evangelism?
I think in my mind, I had that Mormons were going to be one specific way, but the same with people who profess to be followers of Christ. You have Jack Mormons, so you have Mormons who really aren't Mormons, but they just, they're just barely doing it. And then you have, I just didn't realize how wide of a spectrum there is. So like a lot of the students that I've met who have left Mormonism, like their families haven't shunned them. Like we have a girl here who is a born again believer now, who was raised in a polygamous group out here. And I met a lot of her siblings last weekend, and like some of them are agnostic, some of them are still fundamentalists, some of them are mainstream Mormonism, and their family all gets along. So it depends on the context and the people's beliefs. So you can have a very wide range of people, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and that's such an important point. We're gonna teach you all these things about what Mormons believe, and then like the first 2 days, we're gonna introduce you to 4 people that don't believe any of that stuff, and also, 3 of them would claim to be Mormon. So you're not talking to a theology textbook. You're talking to a human being, and what Lauren's saying is super important. That in Wilmington, North Carolina, you've got some social cachet, you could say, from being a Christian. So of course I'm a Christian because everyone's a Christian, right? I remember my old law boss who literally could care less about any of this, was adamantly evolutionist, did not believe anything about, but he would put on it on his website for our law firm what church he attended, because that's what you do in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a social aspect of it. Out here, there's no social gain from saying you're Christian, but it's Mormonism out here. So there are plenty of people that are Mormon, but it doesn't mean anything to them. It doesn't mean anything the way but they're Mormon. Of course they're Mormon, and they're going to defend it. So you're going to meet all kinds of people under the guise of Mormon. And that's such a important point for all we're trying to teach you for the rest of, when you're talking to people, that you're not talking to what you think they should believe. You're talking to a human being who's got certain beliefs, and you want to talk to that person. And so it's different. And so the first thing we do, and some of the students, when they, on March, they were so frustrated after the first day because this person professed to be Mormon. They didn't believe anything we had taught them about Mormon. And we're like, well, that's what they believe. I mean, that's just, sorry. So Lauren's going to be finishing up her internship, and then you're going to be hanging out in Utah until everyone comes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll be back for the fall too.
Are you coming back? You're definitely coming back? Dang. Mm-hmm. See, we're going to suck all y'all into Utah. So Jane and Nick are already getting sucked in back here. So, all right. Any other questions, or anybody else we didn't get a chance to introduce themselves? Please let us know. But questions, comments? All right, this is recorded, so I'll send the link to to everybody just as soon as I'll publish it. I'll try to get published tomorrow, and then so if you want to rewatch some of it, or if someone wasn't here, obviously they can watch it. I will send everybody the syllabus, the things that we just went over. I will send everybody a PDF copy of that book and a PDF copy of the final word. You should have your hard copies. I think Tom and Carolyn, they were supposed to get there like Tuesday, I think, to y'all. Then you can distribute them out to everybody, the hard copies of the final word. And then the next batch was supposed to come out, I think, next week. And then those of you who don't have it, I'll send the last copies out for that. So I think that, Jake and Caitlin out here, I've got your copies. And then I'll send Ben for Holly, I'll send her copy as well. All right, so then the next Zoom meeting will be in 2 weeks, right? Same time, and we'll delve a little bit deeper into why we're doing this. We'll also talk about what you're asking someone to do when they walk away from Mormonism. It's not just like they're changing their favorite football team, right? I mean, this is their whole life, and so that's really important. And just begin right now. We'll close out in prayer, but start praying right now for conversations that you're going to have in 7 weeks, because in 7 weeks you're going to be out here and God is going to orchestrate some opportunities and some conversations for you to have. And just be praying right now that he would lead you to talk to the right people, to have, to prepare them for the conversations you're going to have. I clearly think that we've seen answers to prayer in that sense from conversations that we've had on past trips. And just pray that God would use you mightily out here. I mean, what could God do with 31 people who are sold out for the true gospel, with a heart for him, who love that love the gospel and just want to share that, right? Not we're trying to shove information down people's throats. That we just want to share the only news worth sharing with a state that is the most lost in all of the country, right? And we're going to spend most of our time. Utah is the least evangelical state in the whole country, and Utah County is the least evangelical county in the least evangelical state in the whole country. We're going to spend 80% of our time in Utah County. So just be praying that God would do a work in Utah County. We know of the fruit that the ministry that Chip has been a part of in their county, of what God has done to bring evangelicals, to grow up evangelicals in that county. And we've seen the LDS population go from it was 90% to now it's down to 80 or 75%, something like that. I know you probably know the stats, Lauren, but you just see God working, and it's not fast and it's not easy, but it's worth it. That's the main thing. So let me pray us out, and then I'll hang out on here. If anybody has any questions or, didn't want to share with the whole group, you can, I'll stop recording and then you can stay on and ask questions. Otherwise, I know Tom said he it looks like he's going to be at your house when y'all meet. So just everybody gets together with your small group. Jacob and Caitlin, I'll talk to you tomorrow night. And then Ben, if you can get with Holly, and just as you work through the material over the next 7 weeks, that you guys can come up with your own schedule and your own rhythm to do that. But I'm excited for the trip. I think we got a great group. We got a cool place with lots of bathrooms. That was the critique from last trip. There weren't enough bathrooms or beds. I know Christy's happy about that. So a big place at 100 acres, so we can be loud. I think my friend's going to come. He's going to lead us in worship by song at night, and actually, Lauren can do it as well. So anyway, and Heather, you can do it also. I forgot, we've got all kinds of musicians on this trip, but yeah, this is going to be great. So it'll be great, but just start praying now. Start praying that God would do a work in you, and that he would do a work through us here in next couple of weeks, but certainly when y'all are out here. And then pray for your time before you have your interactions with your missionaries. Just pray for that. Pray that God would give you something to say, to put a stone in their shoe. One thing, just pray when you're having the conversation. I think one of the things we're learning, I'm learning more and more, is my lack of prayer and thinking that good arguments do it when we trust God. So all right, let me pray for us and then we'll call it a meeting. Father, we thank you for this group. We've got 31 people, Lord, who are willing to give up a week of their life to come here to Utah to share the only message worth sharing, the true gospel, with people who, though profess to be Christians, do not know the true gospel and do not know you. And so we pray, Lord, that you would use us mightily out here. We pray, Lord, that you would even be so gracious as to allow somebody to get saved while on the trip through the proclamation of the gospel. We pray, Lord, that you would transform us through this process, that we would all trust this process, trust the fact that we're going to be doing a lot of studying, a lot of praying, and Lord, that if we would trust the process, if we would trust what's going to happen over the next 7 weeks, that we would be different people on the back end of this trip. We would be people that love you more, love other people more, love your word, and just have a heart for those that don't know you. And what an opportunity that would be to have 31 people who are completely sold out for you and your word, and you could use them all over this world to proclaim the only news worth sharing. And so we thank you for this group. We thank you for them. Pray, Lord, as many of them end their semester and exams and all those things, that they wouldn't be overwhelmed, but they would be able to begin to go through the material diligently, and that you would begin to create in them a broken heart for the Mormon people, that they would love them well and they would love you more. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, like I said, I'll hang out if anybody has any more questions or wants to talk. If you don't, we will see you the next Zoom session. So again, same time in 2 weeks from now, right? And then I'll send all the emails out. If you don't get an email from me by tomorrow, just send me a message or something, or either on the group me or whatever, and let me know, and I'll make sure that everyone gets everything. All right. It's 1 minute to go before Tom's bedtime, so I did that on purpose. Yeah, Tom just goes narcoleptic at 8:30. So, well, it's 10:30. No, 10:30 your time. I forgot. Yeah. All right. I'll stop recording. I won't.